Welcome and a very warm good evening to all the viewers of Facebook page of Purnamika Vision Foundation and also the YouTube channel Apala Paryavaran. This is our 49th webinar in the series. Before going towards a webinar, I would like to give brief introduction about Purnam. Purnam is working in waste management and environment since 2012. So we run three main projects, namely e-waste and plastic management, fabric upcycling, and green consultancy. So under e-waste and plastic waste management project, we have arranged tomorrow two society level drives, collection drives. So their locations are Namo Vihar in Handewadi and Pushpa Tower on Satara Road. So do participate in these drives and also spread the word about these drives. Coming back to the webinar, speaker for today's webinar is Dr. Sumanta Narayana, and he is talking about coral reef ecology, threats and conservation. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to invite Dr. Rajesh Manarikar, CEO of Purnam, to give brief introduction about Sumanta, sir. Rajesh, sir.
Hello, everybody. Good evening to all. Thanks, Namita. It is my privilege to welcome another student of mine in this webinar session. Very warm welcome to Dr. Sumanta Narayan. He is basically from Malology or Marine background. He has done his BSc from biotechnology, and then after that he has experience in marine science and marine biology. At present, he is working at Bombay Natural History Society as scientist B, and presently working in coral reefs in Andaman Islands. He has great experience in handling conservation and a lot of ecology, marine ecology studies, especially in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So you will experience a lot of, you will experience his knowledge about the marine biology, marine ecology, conservation, and the prospects, upcoming prospects in this field. Also, he has published more than 20 papers in journals, in national and international journals. So vast experience, say about 10 years or so in marine ecology and marine biodiversity. Obviously, he will give you the insights of basic insights of marine ecology, especially coral reefs and the prospects therein. So let us welcome Dr. Sumanta, and let us hear more about the concept and more about the marine ecology. Also, if you have any doubts during this webinar, you can post it on our Facebook chat window, and during last 10 minute session, we can have question and answers directly from the speaker. Thank you and welcome, Dr. Sumanta.
Thank you, Rajesh, for the warm welcome. So I'll directly dive into the presentation for today. Okay, coral reef ecosystem. It's a very large marine ecosystem. I suppose there's hardly anyone who does not love to visit a beach, right? The joy, the calmness, and the curiosity they inspire is absolutely priceless. Yet there is so much of negligence towards these ocean ecosystems. All our lives We have just viewed oceans as a place from where we can take what we want and dump what we don't want. And for us, the ocean seems vast and indestructible. But this isn't the truth, and it is in a serious trouble. Uh, it is estimated that over the past few decades, we have already lost half of our coral reef ecosystem and mangroves, some of the most productive habitats on Earth. We have pushed the crucial fish stocks to the point of collapse, threatening people livelihood and also food security. We have clogged our oceans with waste and pollutants, from plastic to oil spills to agrochemicals to industrial effluents. But once in a while, the ocean gives us back everything that we have given it over the years. And when it gives it as a bumper offer. As you see in this picture, you can see after the cyclone which passed Mumbai recently, the last year, no, all the garbage that was dumped in the sea for over years was given back, and the beaches were full of plastic waste and other waste that was dumped into the sea. So where are all these coral reefs located? So coral reefs are mostly located in the tropical and subtropical regions across the globe, and it is just part of the ocean and covers almost just 0.1% of the ocean floor. In India, we have coral reefs in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Gulf of Mannar and Pak Bay, Lakshadweep Islands. In the Arabian Sea, we have some patches in Goa and some patches in Malvan and Ratnagiri. And another patch is in the Gulf of Kutch. So coral reefs. So these are most ecologically and economically important ecosystems found across the world, tropical and subtropical oceans. Like I said, it just covers 1% of the ocean floor, but it hosts more than a quarter of the fish species across the globe. So as you all may know, the ocean supplies more than half of the oxygen that we breathe and provides food and livelihood for billions and billions of people across the globe. The biodiversity of the ocean array from tiny plankton that are invisible to the naked eye to the largest creature on the earth, that is the blue whale. Most of this biodiversity is concentrated in this just 0.1%, which is estimated to be around 284,000 square kilometers. And the coral reefs are one of the most uh, productive habitat on the earth. This coral reef is also responsible for nutrient cycling. All the nutrients, the carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus cycling, most of it occurs in the oceans. The healthy reefs act as natural barriers, protecting the coast, the cities, the communities, and the beaches from pounding ocean waves. As I said, these are the most ecologically and economically important ecosystems. So what are corals? These are tiny animals. These are not plants. These are animals. So these animals are known as polyps, as you can see in the center figure. And they are related to the anemones and jellyfish, and they fall under the phylum Cnidaria. Talking of the polyps, the polyps host an algae known as the zooxanthellae, and this is and they are responsible for production of food, which through photosynthesis, which they photosynthesize and provide the coral polyps the food. The excreta of these polyps is also served as a food to zooxanthellae. So they have a symbiotic relationship between the two. The corals are also predators. So they can extend their tentacles to capture tiny organisms like the zooplankton or small fishes with the help of the nematocyst, that is the stinging cell that is present in it. So the Symbiodinium species or the zooxanthellae, these are tiny microscopic algae, as you can see in the figure below. And the coral polyps, they can live as individuals, as in case of mushroom corals, or in large colonies that construct an entire reef structure. Thus, coral reef ecosystem are intricate and diverse collection of species that interact with each other and the physical environment. So this is the coral reef, as you can see. I'll be showing you a number of pictures. So most of the corals that build reefs are known as hard corals or reef building corals. These polyps, they secrete a layer of calcium carbonate beneath their bodies, which form the hard external skeleton. In humans, for example, we have an internal skeleton which is formed of calcium carbonate. Similarly, the corals, they have an external skeleton and the animal is inside the skeleton. So these hard corals, they grow in colonies and are the architects of coral reefs. They create skeleton out of calcium carbonate and eventually become rock solid over a period of time. So these are some of the corals. So as you can see in this image, how the reef is built a layer by layer upon on the ground. So this is another type of corals. It's known as staghorn corals. Uh, This is another picture of a coral reef with a mixed assemblage of different species of corals and algae. Here also you can see on the right is a boulder corals, also known as brain corals, whereas on the left is the acropora or the branching corals. This is how a beautiful coral reef, which is healthy, looks like. Then there comes soft corals. It's another type of corals. So these soft corals are like sea fans or sea whips, which do not produce reefs as such, but are flexible organisms and sometimes are resemble plants or trees. So generally, when I'm talking of coral reef or coral, I mean to say that I'm talking about the hard corals and not the soft corals. So what do these coral reefs really need in order to survive? So this is a whip coral. This is a sea fan, and this is also a sea fan. So these are soft corals. Okay, so what do these coral reefs require in order to survive? The most essential is seawater, a balanced ratio of salt to water, ambient sunlight, and clean and clear water. And coral grow best in warm temperatures of about 22 to 29 degrees Celsius. I said seawater because most of the corals grow in seawater. You cannot find them in fresh water, or even when there are estuaries where the rivers and the oceans meet, they do not grow over there. They need a particular ratio of seawater. So the biodiversity in coral reef. Uh, the major components of the reef ecosystem are fishes, poriferans, that is sponges, Cnidaria or sea jellies or the sea anemones, echinoderms such as sea urchins, sea stars, sea cucumber, mollusks, annelids, arthropods, etc. So the animals and plants together contribute to the structure of the coral reef. Then there are many type of algae and some mollusks like the giant clam, which you can see on the top right corner is the giant clam. And some oysters are also architects of the coral reef. So when these organisms die, they also lay the foundation for new corals to build upon them. So on the extreme left corner on the top, this thing, the animal that you see is a feather star. In the center, you see a small baby hatchling of a sea turtle. On the right top corner is the giant clam. Below it is a nudibranch. And on the left corner down is also another nudibranch. Then these are some crustaceans, the shrimps, and comes the mollusks. So there are a lot of mollusks ranging from various size. My interest lies in micro mollusks, which you can see on this screen. All these mollusks, most of these mollusks, the adult maximum size of the shell is around 0.6 to 0.7 centimeter, that is 6 to 7 mm. Then comes the marine algae. So most of the marine algae that on the oceans is the phytoplankton. So these are tiny microscopic algae. They comes in various shapes and structures. And these are primarily responsible for the oxygen that is evolved from the oceans or that is produced on the earth. Then comes the seaweed. So the left or top photo is of a seaweed, Cauldropa species. Then on the right corner is the seagrass. Below the seagrass is the turf algae, and on the left of turf algae is the cyanobacteria. So threats. So there are a lot of threats to these coral reef ecosystem. Anthropogenic threats that are caused mostly due to humans are unsustainable fishing, water pollution, marine debris, habitat destruction, oil pollution. Whereas the natural threats are global warming, ocean acidification, sea level rise, earthquake, dependent tsunami, cyclones, etc. So let's talk about the threats one by one. Overfishing. So overfishing or overharvest of fish on coral reef has affects the entire food web in the ecosystem. On healthy reefs, the algae is kept at low levels due to the intense grazing of herbivores like parrotfish, sturgeon fishes, and some others. So when these fishes are fished, they disappear. So overfishing causes the fish to disappear, and when the fish disappear, the delicate balance in the coral reef ecosystem is disrupted. The algae is now let unchecked, and eventually the smothering of reefs occur. Due to overfishing, fish population decline, and the fishermen respond to this by intensifying their efforts in an attempt to catch something. So this further attempt leads to the collapse or near collapse of fish stocks and puts the coral reef at a significant risk. Water pollution. So water pollution is basically land-based pollution. So high level of nutrients, bacteria, chemicals, and pathogen enter into the marine environment when sewage and inadequately treated wastewater is directly discharged into the sea. So in India, we have seen this, we might have seen this across the coastal region. So when all these waste and sewage enters into the sea, there is an overabundance of nutrients in the marine environment. This causes eutrophication, upsetting the delicate balance and promoting the growth of algae, which can kill corals by smothering them or blocking access to the sunlight and by promoting the growth of harmful bacteria. So these harmful bacteria or other pathogens can also cause coral diseases. The way we have several diseases, even these animals, corals, they also are tend to go through diseases. So sediment runoff. So when it rains heavily in the coastal regions, so along with water, a lot of sediment also runoffs into the sea. So this sediment is very fine silt and it takes a very long time to settle on the sea floor. So sediment and nutrient runoff, they similarly hamper the corals by blocking the access to sunlight, which the zooxanthellae, and it hampers the zooxanthellae which lives inside the coral polyps and which are dependent on light to photosynthesize effectively. Marine debris. So a lot of debris, including plastic waste, lost or discarded fishing net, which is also known as ghost nets, uh, get caught or thrown into the sea. Over a period of time, it settles on the coral reefs and they get caught on the reefs. And because of these ghost nets, a lot of fish entangle into it and dies off. Some sea turtles and marine mammals also get caught in these ghost nets, and sea turtles and marine mammals, they need to come once in a while on the surface to breathe, but as they get entangled in its nets, so they are unable to swim, and these turtles or marine mammals are dead, caught into these fishing nets. Then sea turtles often mistake for plastic bags the carry bags which are discarded into the water and which eventually enters into the sea. They mistake these plastic bags for jellyfish and eat them, causing harm to their digestive tracts, and it even causes death. I myself have been called by wildlife department twice to rescue sea turtles and to remove the plastic that was stuck in its neck. So I have seen how painful it is to these sea turtles. Then another is habitat destruction. So habitat destruction. So there's a lot of developmental activities that goes on along the coastal region. So be it coastal or marine construction, be it jetty construction or some of the industries that are coming up across the coastal areas. So these uh, cause marine habitat destructions. The other kind of destruction that happens in mostly in island region is the coral mining. So as in these places, they cannot find or bricks are isn't easily not available. So what they do is they cut these boulder corals, which I showed you earlier. Mm, so they cut these boulder corals into pieces as bricks, and they use cement to paste it, and they construct their houses or other buildings, or it may be even flooring and everything. So this coral mining eventually destroys the coral, and over a period of time, the island subsides as the coral which was even previously there has been now replaced either with sediment or left barren. So what happens is that the island subsides, and this is another destruction that is hampering the coral reefs. Then coral collection. So we all, whenever we go to the beaches, either we collect some or the other coral pieces that is fallen on the beaches, or some people when they are diving or snorkeling, they tend to hold on to it, and they break the coral pieces. And once it is thrown back, even if they try to hold it, it breaks, and if they throw back into the sea, most of the time they are just killing the coral. Then souvenirs. So a lot of souvenirs are prepared using these corals or the mollusk shells that are available in the sea. Jewelry. So the red coral or the blue coral uh, jewelry is very famous, and astrologically also many people recommend these jewelry. So that's why a lot of these corals are collected. They are killed, they are collected, and jewelry is made out of these corals. Then the destructive way of fishing. So in some places, especially the artisanal fishermen, what they do is they practice poison fishing. So for poisoning, they use bleach powder, and during low tides, when fish are gets stuck in small potholes or things, they disperse this bleach, and due to the bleach, what happens is the fish dies uh, over eventually, and they collect these fishes easily. So rather than a painstaking process of fishing by nets or using a barb, poison fishing is easy. Some also use blast fishing in some of the islands in the Pacific, uh, or even the Indian Ocean. The small islands, people use blast fishing. So when they use dynamite and throw it into the sea, due to the blast, the shock wave that is created, because of that, a lot of fishes die, and it's an easy way for people to collect the fish. Boat anchors is another major hindrance or to the or habitat destruction, cause for the habitat destruction. So when during tourism or people when they visit various beaches and they go into the sea for a ride, the boats, the anchor of the boat is just abruptly thrown into the sea, and it gets caught in the reef, so that the boat doesn't move. But eventually, when they pull up the anchor, the coral that is below the anchor, it gets broken, and it gets destructed. So these are some of the anthropogenic threats that happen uh, in this in the coral reefs. Then the natural threats are global warming, ocean acidification, the sea level rise caused due to global warming, the earthquake and the dependent tsunami, and the cyclones. So global warming. So so everyone knows about this, that now there's a lot of talk on the climate change and global warming. So due to industrialization and excessive use of fossil fuels, the carbon dioxide has increased in the atmosphere, causing the heat to be trapped, which is causing global warming. Eventually, this heat is trapped by the ocean as it covers most of the surface of the earth. So this heat causes an increase in the temperature of the sea, especially the sea surface temperature. And coral reefs, which prefer shallow regions in the tropical area, so these shallow regions, the surface temperature, once they increase, it causes bleaching of corals, which we see. And over a period of time, if the temperature cools down, they recover back. But if the high temperature is prolonged for over a period of time, then bleaching occurs. So climate change. So for the climate change, there is an intergovernmental panel on climate change, uh, which predicts that coral will decline further by 70 to 90% if the global temperatures continue to increase by 1.5 degrees Celsius. And they say that the situation is even more dire if the percentage of temperature increases by 2 degrees. And they say this with very high confidence that if this happens, then a lot of coral reef will die. So over the past 3 decades or past 2 decades itself, we had major global warming issues, and sea surface temperature increased in once in 98, then in 2000, in 2010, and recently in 2016. So the interval, the gap between the what do you say the gap between the sea level or sea surface temperature increase is coming down day by day. And with this hampers the coral reef to recover back. And over a period of last 2 to 3 decades, we have already lost almost the 50% of the coral reef that was previously available in the past. So as a consequence of this, if the coral declines, also the marine biodiversity will decline. Then comes coral bleaching, like I talked. So if in a healthy coral, like I showed earlier, there are zooxanthellae which provide food to the corals and which habit inside the coral polyps. So when stressed due to temperature or sedimentation or any other factor, these zooxanthellae, they get released into the water. They leave the coral colonies and get into the waters so that it can sustain a cooler temperature. And this causes bleaching in corals. So once the corals has bleached, the colorful corals, they all become white. And over a period of time, if the higher sea surface temperature still sustains, the corals are dead. However, if over a period of time, if there is a fall in the temperature, the coral can get back to normalcy within a few days or few weeks. So this is how it happens. On the extreme left, you see a full colorful reef. So once the temperature soars, in the middle, you see a yellowish tinge in the waters. Actually, it is in the corals. So what happens is, just like how when we go to some very sunny areas, we apply sunscreen to our body. So the corals, they themselves produce this kind of sunscreen to protect themselves from the heat and the light. But if the temperature keeps on soaring over next few days or next few weeks, so eventually these corals, like I said, the zooxanthellae, which is within the corals, which gives color to these corals, they escape from the coral polyps and the coral gets bleached. So like on the extreme right that you see, these are either partially bleached or fully bleached corals. So once the coral is bleached, so eventually, if the temperature decreases, they come back and they survive. But if not, they die. So on the extreme right, on the top hand, if you see, there is a white coral which is bleached. Below it is all the dead corals. So that's how the complete dead coral looks like. So just to give you an idea, this is a coral reef that is healthy, but after bleaching, if it does not recover, this is how it happens. All the coral, they crumble down, and algae or some other organisms start growing on this, and the complete coral reef dies. So this, why is this important? Is because these corals, for example, the staghorn coral that you see here, it grows almost 1 to 1.2 centimeters per year. That is how slow these coral grows. But whereas the boulder corals, which you see on the extreme right in the same picture or in the background, so they grow at like 3 mm to 4 mm at times if the conditions are very favorable, 5 mm per year. This is how slow the coral grows. So whatever reefs that we see either in Lakshadweep or Andamans or across the globe, some are estimated to be around 5,000 to 10,000 years old. So it takes that lot of time for these coral to grow and become a structured, completely structured reef. But if but because of anthropogenic as well as natural issues, the reef destructions are happening, and it continues to decline. So this is another photo. This is from Andamans, in the north of Andamans. So you all may remember the 2004 earthquake, which was followed by a tsunami. Until then, none of us knew tsunami, most of us, in fact. But this was the first impact that happened after the tsunami. So what happened in the Andaman Nicobar region? The Nicobar region submerged almost a meter, whereas in the northern part of Andamans, the reef got uplifted. So what you see here is the reef, uplifted reef. So this region used to be at least a meter below the waters in once before 2004. Okay, so after 2004, because of sudden upliftment of the ocean plates, this is now completely exposed, and within an instant, all these reefs that were presently present in these places, it was completely dead, and we lost a huge part of coral reefs in the Andamans. So this is in another region of the North Andaman. So as you can see here, there are different kinds of corals here. So all these corals take decades or even centuries to grow, but within minutes, all these coral reef were left dead because of the earthquake and the tsunami. Oil spills. This is another major threat nowadays, especially. During the last few months, we have been continuously hearing about ship accidents or oil spills occurring in the oceans. So huge ships or barges are used to transfer oil from oil-rich regions to places like India or other countries where there is scarcity of natural resources of oil. So when these ships, for some or the other reason, maybe breakdown or failure or captain's mistake, when they steer away from the actual route and they get stuck into the coral reefs, there is a lot of oil spillage. So the entire reef ecosystem suffers from an oil spill. It can kill or impede the coral growth, development, and reproduction completely. So it also affects many species of fish, crabs, and other marine invertebrates that live in and around the corals. So as you can also see here, on the extreme right photo, this is one of the ships that has recently in 2020 it has struck in Mauritius. So the oil spills has been carried away with the currents and wind for over kilometers. So for all those places wherever the oil has been carried away, in all these regions, it affects the corals eventually, and the coral will die. So this is all I wanted to say about the coral reefs. So for those people who are aspiring, to find an opportunity in coral reef or the marine biology field, I would say this, as huge as the ocean is, there is an ocean of opportunities for people who would like to join this particular field. It can start from scuba diving. For scuba diving, you don't need anything. You just need to be physically fit, and you should have an interest for oceans. Or and Yeah, you can just start scuba diving eventually, and over a period of time, if you further like it, you can take up as a career. There is also scientific scuba diving in which the scuba diver records all scientific data that he observes while diving, and there is a lot of scope for this across the globe. Then another opportunity is taxonomical studies. So as I told you, the biodiversity of oceans or the coral reefs is humongous, but till now scientists say that only like small percentage of the entire biodiversity has been discovered. So there still remains a lot of animals and plants to be discovered out in the ocean. But we seriously lack good taxonomists. So with the boom in IT and BT industry, most of the people turn to those fields, and the taxonomists in each and every area of natural science, the number of taxonomists has declined tremendously. So taxonomy is one region wherein there's a lot of scope for people who would like to pursue this study. Conservation. So coral reefs are widely regarded as one of the top science and conservation priorities globally as of now. So, because of global warming and other issues that are happening around the globe, the conservation activity to protect the reefs and ecosystem, the fishing activities, all this has been prioritized even by the United Nations, and there is a lot of scope in this particular field. But thing is, you need a lot of dedication, because coral reef research and conservation, you need to dedicate a lot of time into this. You need to be seriously working towards these issues, right from the ground level to the community level. You need to work with various kinds of people, through the government people and other groups. Then there is policy maker. So all these, whatever research is done globally, so it is useless if policies are not framed accordingly. So we may have all the taxonomical data, we may know what conservation measures need to be carried out. We may know what is lacking, what needs to be done. We may have the money and everything. But if government policies or international policies are not framed accordingly, no, all this is just a waste. So policymaker needs to tap the data that from the scientists, use that data, study it, and with the help of or by studying law, or with the help of people who have studied law, they need to make policies, and also see that policies are prepared in such a way that it can be implemented easily, and they need to follow up so that the policies are also implemented. Data analytics. This is an upcoming field in not only in marine biology, the complete natural sciences, I would say. But in marine biology, being the oceans covering, the almost 70% of the earth. So there's a huge amount of data, right from physical parameters to the biological parameters, to the abiotic uh, factors or the biotic factors. All these data that is collected by various scientists across the globe. So you need to, there's a need that it needs to be analyzed and put out in a way so that the common people can understand, also the various policymakers or the future conservationists can understand it. So data analytics is one upcoming field in which a lot of people can get into. Then a fairly new field of research or field of science is the biomimicking machines. So there are various machines that are prepared by engineers. Uh, for example, just like robots or the drones, but they are these robots or drones, what or the machines that they prepare, they are very similar to either the fish or a bird or an stingray or a seal, so that when people need to biomimicking robots are deployed into the sea, and no along in the and they are in the coral reef, and to study the coral reef from a better point of view without disturbing the other animals. This is one of the best ways uh, that can be implemented, and this is a very unique and upcoming field for studying. Underwater photographer. So now with the advent of digital cameras and several underwater cameras, and a lot of people being interested in photography, underwater photography is another huge space that needs to be uh, that can be got into. There are several underwater photographers, but going into various ecosystems and studying these ecosystems, uh, showing those pictures to the common man or the various people who are the stakeholders of various implementing agencies. A picture, if it is captured in a very beautiful way, it can impact on these people, the stakeholders, especially the stakeholders, which helps in implementing or modifying the policies. So underwater photography is a good opportunity, but it also needs the background of understanding the marine ecosystem, how it plays, how the ecology, how the food webs and everything plays in the coral reef ecosystem. Another field of study which has been going on for several decades now, but even today is of high importance, is the medical research or the biomolecule research. So the number of plants and animals or the biodiversity of the ocean is such huge that each organism produces some or the other unique biomolecule to protect itself or to protect or to hinder the other animal from preying on it, or for any other or for survival, just for mere survival. So these biomolecules, uh, they are being studied for various human ailments, uh, be it cancer, anti-cancer research, be it for mm, mm, paralysis, anti-paralysis, I mean, be it for Parkinson's disease or several other rare diseases. For these, people are looking towards the ocean for biomolecules, so that which can be used as a drug candidate in future. So, like I said, coral reefs are widely regarded as one of the top science and conservation priorities globally. Previous research has demonstrated that these ecosystems harbor an extraordinary biodiversity and provide myriad of ecosystem services. But at the same time, these are highly vulnerable to human stressors. So I would like to stress upon that again and complete my presentation. Thank you.